Good evening. This is the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. Reps panel receives 31 requests for new state's creation. Anambra security squad uncovers a kidnapper's hideout. President Tinubu sacks Uni Abuja VC, makes key changes across federal vesties, and Kemi Badnoch proposes stricter immigration rules. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 6 begins on the foreign scene, where British Conservative Party leader Kemi Badnoch has introduced a significant policy change, proposing that immigrants must wait at least 15 years before becoming eligible for British citizenship. In her first major announcement as Conservative leader, Badnoch outlined plans to tighten the immigration system, including extending the waiting period for migrants to apply for indefinite leave to remain for 5 to 10 years. She also revealed that individuals who claim benefits, rely on social housing, or have criminal records will be permanently banned from settling in the UK. Let's take a listen to her.
Britain is our home. It's not a hotel. It's time to tell the truth on immigration and propose real plans to do something about it. I want to reduce immigration and make living here actually mean something. We need to change the way our immigration system works. Get it done.
Meanwhile, United States President Donald Trump has restated a vision in which the U.S. would take over Gaza after officials in his administration appear to contradict his earlier comments. He reiterated that the idea would mean resettling Palestinians and that no U.S. soldiers would be needed. Trump's resettlement idea has prompted accusations that he is planning ethnic cleansing and has drawn condemnation from the UN, human rights groups, and the Arab leaders. After Trump's first comment on the issue, his officials suggested any relocation will be only temporary. His post, written on Truth Social, did not make clear whether the 2 million residents of the Palestinian territory would be invited to return. Back home in Nigeria, the House of Representatives Committee on Constitution Review has received 31 state creation requests in the ongoing constitution amendment process. Deputy Speaker and Chairperson of the committee, Benjamin Carlo, announced this today during a plenary session. He noted that the committee, in line with Section 8 of the 1999 Constitution, would proceed with the process for requests that meet the constitutional threshold. At present, there are 36 states in Nigeria, while the Northwest Geopolitical Zone has 7 states. The Northeast, the North Central, Northeast, the South, and Southwest have 6 states each. Only the Southeast has 5 states. In a recent development, the Agune Chamber Security Squad has successfully raided a kidnappers' hideout in Owerri, Izukala, Orumba South local government area of Anambra State. The operation, conducted in the early hours of today, led to the arrest of key suspects and the recovery of substantial weapons. The Agune Chamber Security Squad, a joint task force comprising local security operatives, police, and military personnel, acted on credible intelligence to execute the raid. During the operation, several individuals were apprehended and a significant cache of firearms was seized, including AK-47 rifles, pump-action guns, and locally made pistols. Additionally, various charms and other incriminating items were recovered from the hideout. In a recent development, 6 persons have been reported killed by suspected herdsmen in the Okpamaju community of Okete Ward and Asa settlement of Ewulo Ward of Otukpo local government area, Benue State. The lawmaker representing the Otukpo Akpa in the Benue State House of Assembly, Kennedy Angbo, told journalists that 3 days of sustained attacks in his constituency have left many injured, displaced, and communities burnt down. According to him, the attacks have threatened the public peace in the general area, including academic activities at the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, where students have been living in fear over attacks on the institution. The police public relations officer in Benue State, Sewese Anene, confirmed the incident but said 2 persons were killed on Wednesday. The police described the violence as caused by alleged open grazing on a farm in the Okpamaju area of the Okete ward in Otukpo. She said the villagers complained about grazing on their farms, which subsequently led to the clash that claimed 2 lives. Benue State has been under attack by suspected herdsmen in the past few years. The administration of Governor Hassan Talia says it has substantially addressed the violence, but the incidents of killings of farmers have continued, with most villagers living at the mercy of armed herders. In the meantime, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kade Egbetokun, has reportedly ordered all police officers affected by the recent retirement directive from the Police Service Commission, PSC, to remain in office. The IGP reportedly directed the affected officers to maintain status quo and await further directives. You will recall that the Police Service Commission had mandated the immediate retirement of all senior police officers who have exceeded 35 years of service or are over 60 years of age. The directive comes amid debates surrounding the tenure of the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kade Egbetokun, who recently turned 60. In a statement issued last Friday, PSC's head of press and public relations, Ikechukwu Ani, revealed that the commission reviewed its 2017 policy, which previously allowed officers to use their enlistment date instead of their initial appointment date. The PSC has now reversed this decision, aligning with public service rule, which mandates retirement once an officer reaches either 35 years of service or 60 years of age. He further explained that the commission reconsiders its 2017 stance after determining it was inconsistent with public service regulations regarding length of service and retirement. However, according to the Vanguard, a wireless message from the office of the First Secretary stated that the IGP has issued a counter directive. The wireless message said Egbetokun strongly directs all officers affected by the PSC's directive to stay action pending further instructions. Officers were told to comply strictly with these other. President Bola Tinubu has sacked Aisha Maikudi, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, now known as Yakubu Gowon University. Maikudi's sack was announced hours after she presided over a matriculation ceremony in the school. Her appointment has been fraught with controversy, with some lecturers saying she occupied the position illegally. In her position, President Tinubu appointed Professor La Patricia Manko as acting Vice Chancellor for a 6-month term, emphasizing that she will not be eligible to apply for the substantive Vice Chancellor position when it becomes available. The Nigerian Union of Teachers in Benue State has declared an indefinite strike in 7 local government areas due to non-payment of 4 months' salaries to some teachers. In a statement released by the NUT Secretary, Basi Asuko, the affected local government areas listed as Ebonyi, Edda, Eza South, Eza North, Ivo, Ishelu, and Ohuku. The NUT directed its state and branch officers in the affected local government areas to strictly enforce the strike from today. Pupils who went to school were reportedly sent home by union leaders and teachers. The State Commissioner for Education, Professor Paul Nwabasi, had summoned the meeting with the affected local government chairman and union executives in an effort to resolve the matter. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We're now going to the news analysis segment where I have legal luminary, Barrister Fred Nzaka. Always a pleasure to have you here, Barrister. Good evening, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Good evening.
Barrister Fred Nzako, are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining us.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Barrister Fred Nzako. Can you hear me? Barrister Fred
Hello.
Nzako, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good evening.
I can hear you. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining me. The House of Reps panel today received 31 requests for the creation of new states, right, in the ongoing constitution amendment process. Some Nigerians are worried that this is not what the House of Reps should be basing on right now, as there are other issues they should be looking into, at least insecurity, which has been ravaging other parts of the country. As a legal luminary, can you explain to us what it means, right, that they have received these requests and just how it works?
Well, it is not the fault of the House because they did not originate the memorandum or the memoranda with respect to the request for creation of additional 31 states in Nigeria. The Constitution Review and the Constitution Amendment Committee just received that from the public. Some members of the public that felt that there's need for Nigeria to have 31 additional states. But that is not only laughable, but annoying that Nigerians will be making such a request from the parliament. I can only blame parliament if they begin to give it thoughts or consideration. Yes, they have received that. They have told the people that this is what they received. And then the next thing I expect them to do is to consign such memoranda to the dustbin. But if they want to be very fair to the people who sent in the memo, they will invite them to come and defend the inglorious, annoying memo that they sent to the House. We are saying that even the 36 states, we should be thinking of how to shrink the bogus states so that we will shrink the bogus bureaucratic expenditure of government. Those of us in the movement for Nigerian restructuring, we are even agitating and advocating that Nigeria should be reduced to 6 administrative zones, so that instead of having 36 states, 36 administrative apparatus, House of Assembly, Judiciary, House, and all that, you have just 6. We need to release a lot of money for capital development, as big as America is. America has just about 18 ministries. Yes, the 50 states are working because they have anchored the structure on true fiscal federalism. We cannot eat our cake and have it. We said, let us operate through federalism. A lot of Nigerians say they don't understand what we are talking about. Now, some people will just come out and say, and demand for 31 extra states. 31 plus 36 will give you 67 plus FCT. So, did they think over it at all? They were just driven by the personal greed of becoming the lord of the manor? They just want their own chiefdom carved out for them. Is state creation something that is to be? The 704 local government areas that we have are even overbloated. Not to talk of creating extra states. I think it simply shows crass ignorance and lack of understanding of the problems of Nigeria by those who are asking for creation of extra states.
There are certain people who actually believe that the creation of
those who are asking those who are asking for creation of one more state only talk about equity because the Southeast is the only zone in Nigeria that has 5 states. And people are agitating that one more state should be created so that the Southeast will be balanced with some other zones and have East 6, like East 6, like the other zones. If one is thinking in that direction, one could look at the equity involved and begin to advocate, but not to talk about 31. It's scandalous, to say the least. Extremely scandalous.
There are certain people who believe that the creation of another state would actually foster employment and reduce forest where actually elements of insecurity can hide. But because of our time, I would actually like to move on to the Anambra Security Squad, which has uncovered a kidnappers' hideout in the state with a joint task force comprising local security operatives, police and military personnel, right? And also, while I was going through these particular particular report, right? This particular news report, I also saw a situation whereby Kano State. Are you with me, Barry Senzako?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes. So the Kano State Assembly has approved a bill to create a state-owned armed security force. So we are now having incidences of cases where different states are creating their own security forces. Barrister Fred Nzako, are we not going to see a situation whereby these security outfits end up becoming behemoth non-state actors that can no longer be stopped? Because we will have a whole lot of uniformed men who are armed in the country that is not the federal police.
I do not know why Nigerians like to live in denial. We have, for a very long time, been advocating and agitating for creation, recognition of state police structure. Instead of politicians seeing the bigger picture of security for all, they are looking at the microscopic picture of abuse by politicians and the fact that they feel that the governors will now use the state police to attack their perceived political enemies. But the question is, must everything start and end with politics? What of the market woman, the schoolboy, the schoolgirl, and those who are exposed and vulnerable, that are being farmers, that the marauding criminals are not allowed to go to farm? I mean, the bigger picture is that we need state police and recognize it as state police. And if possible, even bring it down to the county, which is the local government level. If you can tweak the structure, the one at the county may not be carrying arms, but the ones at the state level should be able to carry arms. In every state, you have semblance of policing structure. It can be called a vigilante, it can be called a motor code, it can be called the joint task force, it can be called anything. But why are we shying away from giving it the proper nomenclature of police? All it takes is an amendment of the Constitution, which provides that there will be only one Nigerian police force. Now we amend it and recognize that Nigerian police force will serve at the federal level and the state will have their own policing structure, such that we need to secure our environment. The hunger we face today in Nigeria is essentially caused by insecurity. The high prices and terrible inflation we have today is essentially caused by insecurity. The major problem that we have today in the country is essentially caused by insecurity. Why wouldn't we look at the bigger picture? Meanwhile, even with the current structure, those in authority still use the security organizations to hound their perceived opponent. We must begin to grow in not only attitudes, but in our respect for rule of law and for humanity, because that makes us human beings in the 21st century. We must begin to think about how do we secure our people. If it has to be done by state police, so be it. Now, government is looking at it. They take one step forward and take two steps backward on the issues of state police. If you ask any conventional Nigerian policeman, they will tell you there's no need. But when you engage them in critical argument, you'll find out that they have no reason to go against state policing structure. They have no need, no reason. Because we have borrowed from, look, I keep advocating that if we want to borrow from America, let us borrow fully. Let us borrow fully so that we advance the course of our development. We just go and pick and choose the ones that are difficult for us to implement, and then leave the juice of democracy. The American style democracy is anchored on true fiscal federalism based on rule of law and respect for humanity. We must go back to it. Otherwise, we should go back to parliamentary system. That is why it is a confused system that we operate in Nigeria. You can't call it presidential system because we have left the juice of the presidential system, and you can't call it parliamentary system because that is not what we operate. You call it the Nigerian system that is not working. So why would we tweak our system to work by ensuring that all the agencies and institutions that will make Nigeria work are enabled and enforced? And one of them is the state policing structure.
Barry Senzako, while we're talking about enabling our state institutions, right, talking about the creation of state police, I want to actually talk about the IGP reportedly telling all those who have been affected by the PSC recent directives to remain in office, right? He reportedly ordered all police officers affected by the recent retirement directive from the Police Service Commission to remain in office. And the question is why? What is the reason? The PSC says that it has reviewed its policy that came into force in 2017, which previously allowed officers to use their date of enlistment instead of their initial appointment date. So that's when they start counting, and they know that when they're 35 years in service or they've clocked 60 years of age, they have to retire. If the PSC directed this retirement, why is the IGP asking them to wait? What further decisions is the IGP talking about? Did the PSC issue this directive without the IGP's knowledge?
I find it difficult to believe that the Inspector General of Police will give such an order. I find it very, very difficult because there is no basis for such order. Even the Police Act amended in 2017, 2020. The Police Act amended in 2020 did not authorize all policemen to go beyond 60 years of age or 35 years of service. It is only the IG, Office of the IG, that was tenured. The office of the rest of the police officers are not tenured. So it will be very curious and very shocking to me that such a directive will come from the IG. I know that there has been a running battle of crisis of, or rather, collision of sorts between the IG's office and the Police Service Commission. But that was in the past era. The current era, I thought that was smoothened and papered up that crack, because the crack came when they were talking about recruitment of policemen, when the government of Muhammad Buhari said they were going to recruit 1,000 constables into Nigerian police force. And there was problem between the Police Service Commission and the Office of the IG, which institution should be able to recruit. At the end of the day, they even went to court. But I cannot tell you for sure how it all ended. But my own opinion then was that the Police Service Commission is enamored by the laws to handle every issue about the welfare and recruitment of policemen. And then to a certain extent, when it becomes senior police officers, then dismissal as well they will handle. But for junior ones, the issue of recruitment and the issue of dismissal will end up on the table of the police commissioner of the state. But be that as it may, I expected and I thought that crisis, that clash had been resolved. For anybody to begin to say today that the IG gives such instruction that those who have attained the age of 60 or mandatory service age of 35 years should not go, I do not know where such directive is coming from. And like I said earlier, I do not think that it's a true report.
The PSC says a directive does not affect the office of the IGP. It does not have constitutional powers to remove the IGP from office. You recall that recently, that was since December, Omoyele Sowore has been calling IGP Egbetokun an illegal IGP, saying that his tenure was extended illegally. You do know that that's also the reason why cybercrime charges were slammed on him. He still has that case pending in court with the IGP. Did it take Showore's outcry for the PSC to carry out his job and actually phase out those within the policing system who should have been out all of this while? And now in the current process of constitutional amendment, will the Police Act be amended to change the retirement age if the people who are ought to retire do not want to go out? And they're also looking up to the IGP and then saying that the IGP can stay after the time he's supposed to, even when he's supposed to retire, then I can stay too.
Both the laws, the Police Act, the Constitution, and the public service rules and laws have all pointed to the direction of the fact that once a policeman, possibly by the provision of the Police Act, except the IGP, once a policeman attains the age of 60 or service years of 35 years, he should retire. And if anybody wants to, through the back door or use an administrative directive to extend such tenure, then the person is only setting the stage for crisis. It will just end up in crisis because such directive has no position, no place in our extant laws. We are a civil organization, a civil environment where the rule of law must be respected, and I do not think or see any reason why there will be such directive, because if there will be such directive, the laws regulating those procedures should first be amended. just like that of Police Act of 2020 that now brought in the extension of, not even extension, making the police office of the IGP a tenured office of 4 years, so that once one is appointed IGP and confirmed, irrespective of the fellow's age, the fellow will not extend, will not go leave office except after 4 years. So even though that one, it was a law of National Assembly. So for anybody to say, with due respect to Omo Esowore, I found fault in his naming the IGP an illegal IGP. Oh, no, it doesn't. I mean, I found fault in that. He's not illegally occupying that office. The fact that Buhari did not obey and effect the provisions of the law when it was first enacted in September 2020 does not mean that the law does not exist. What it simply means is that the executive slept on its responsibilities and did not implement the laws and continue to change the IGs even when they got to the 60. And now President Bola Tinubu has picked it up and then effected the law. The law was not made in his tenure. So nobody can accuse him of manipulating the system.
But the National Assembly passed that bill to actually make sure that the IGP concludes his tenure, regardless of if he's supposed to have retired already. And this was just last year.
I didn't hear you properly. I
said, but the National Assembly did work on a bill to ensure that the IGP concludes his tenure, even though he has reached the retirement age.
The duty of the National Assembly is to make the law. It is the executive that should execute it. And when there are issues, the judiciary will interpret. That is the way the system works. So if the National Assembly has made the laws and the laws have been endorsed and signed by the president and they become act of parliament, which means they become binding on the whole federation. If the executive does not execute it, it is not the fault of the National Assembly, neither is it the fault of anybody. You should go and hold the president accountable.
Vice Senator, the question is, what is so special about this IGP that the law has to be amended to make sure that he completes his tenure, right? And even though you say you do not believe that he could have given that directive.
No, the right question should be, the right narrative should not be that the law was amended for a Wetoko. That is what I have been saying all this while. It was not amended for him. The law was amended in 2020, and the wisdom of National Assembly when they amended the law was to give the police chief, whoever that becomes the IGP, enough time to implement his programs and plans of action. Everybody has been crying about police reform, police reform. Every reform should take some time because you first think out what to do and then you roll it out and implement it and watch it, nurture it to grow. You cannot implement it in 6 months, 10 months, 1 year that an IG will come in and go. And in the opinion of the people who moved the motion, they said between 1999 and that 2020, Nigeria has had about between 21 and 22 Inspector General of Police. So in 24 years' time, between 1999 and date, in 24 years, you have about 22 IGs. So obviously, it is enough reason for one to amend such law and allow the office of the IG to stretch up to 4 years. What you may be arguing is that IG does not work alone. And possibly, if you want to tweak it a bit, you can say anybody who attends the level of AIG or DIG, so that he will have a strong team that will implement the law. If you ask me my opinion, I will advise that anybody who has attained the level of AIG, DIG, IG, once you get to that level, you can stay for 4 years before you retire. Because we need a lot of reform in the police. Nigerian police is an embarrassment. It's a very huge embarrassment to Nigerian system. And we cannot live in denial of the need for police to be reformed. The reform must not only be implemented, but they have to be implemented by human beings who have the vision, and they will nurture it to fruition. So anybody who begins to say, oh, the law was amended for able to go to say 4 years, the person should better go and read the Police Act and the relevant sections. I think it's about section 12 or thereabout, where it was clearly stated on what to do, and that was in 2020. It is not Tinubu's fault, and he's not able to cause fault. It may be his luck, but it doesn't end with him. The next IG after him will also step in and spend 4 years tenure. And based on this, this, we want to see a better Nigerian police structure and a better Nigerian policing system that will not only secure Nigerian internal territorial integrity, but also respect the rule of law and ensure that police does not continue to cause the kind of embarrassment that we see all around the country.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fred Nzako, for speaking with me on the World News at 6 this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Many thanks.
You have been listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM, where we had a conversation with legal luminary Barrister Fred Nzako on the issues in the news. Just before we wrap up, we'll take a look at the top stories again. You heard the reps panel receives 31 requests for new states creation. Anambra security squad uncovers kidnappers' hideout. President Tinubu sacks Uni Abuja VC, makes key changes across federal universities, and Kemi Badnoch proposes stricter immigration rules. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Chioma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. For coverage of your live event and brand news mentions in our news bulletins, do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good evening and thank you for listening.